I grew up in New England, but had no appreciation for our tremendously diverse wildlife, because everybody talked about Costa Rica, Australia, and Africa. Right now, we have some of the greatest wildlife in the world here in North America. And I invite you to join me and my family on this adventure of Expedition New England while we explore the spectacular plant and animal life among us. I was totally stunned by the turquoise color of the water near Groton that day. It reminded me of tropical waters I've only seen in Bermuda. You see, my whole life has revolved around Long Island Sound, from summer cottages in Morris Cove, East Haven, to high school campouts at Hammonasset State Beach in Madison. From fishing trips with my grandfather at Hotchkiss Grove, crabbing adventures with my whole family in Leeds Island, Guilford. Long Island Sound is in my blood. We're here in Stonington, Connecticut, southern New England, the outer eastern edge of Long Island Sound. Chris Pimley and I are doing our first dive of the year. Let's see what we find.
Well, hopefully we'll have a good dive. The water looks clear. Probably going to be about 47, 48 degrees. And probably maximum depth will be about 20 feet.
Growing up in southern Connecticut, I never looked at Long Island Sound as a place where you'd ever want to go scuba diving. Everyone said it would be too murky. But as you were about to see, this magical estuary called Long Island Sound, carved out by a glacier over 15,000 years ago, has marine life that rivals anything in the world. Okay, before we take you deep into the waters at Stonington Point, Long Island Sound, we've got to bring you to Madison, Connecticut, and the most incredible turtle living in Long Island Sound. Folks, Chuck Anicelli, our lead herpetologist, is up ahead. He's already identified diamondback terrapins laying eggs. I just hope we get there in time to catch this. In case you hadn't noticed, Daphne is my 6-year-old daughter, who's always game for an expedition when turtles are involved.
How many of them?
Number 4. What do we got? This is number 4, diamondback terrapin. She was looking for a nest. She saw me and started running away. She's probably going to head back in the water, and when we let her go, she might come out tonight, try to lay again, or probably tomorrow. They're very skittish. Once they see someone, they take off immediately. When I came up on these guys, one of them was digging, and it saw me and started taking off, so I grabbed it so you get a picture, and the other 2 were just walking around looking for nesting sites.
The diamondback terrapin is the only turtle in the world that requires a brackish or mixture of fresh and saltwater habitat to survive. Diamondback terrapins breeding June 30th, 2007. This is unbelievable, a dream come true. Chuck Anicelli outthought everybody. He came here an hour early before any of us got here, and he found them. This is incredible. Look at the shell deformities. Look at the rear end of this shell, the back of the plastron.
These turtles are here, they like the brackish water. They use the salt marsh and estuaries, and they live in there. They eat crabs, mollusks, pretty much anything that'll move they'll eat. The females are up here right now laying eggs. It's the full moon. The full moon ensures it's going to be an extremely high tide, so when they come out to go lay them, they're in a small, they have less of a chance of being eaten or disturbed by a predator. And they basically come up during the high tide, and during the full moon it's a super high tide, and that ensures that their eggs aren't going to get flooded. Look how beautiful that thing's face is. Look at it. Still hold their patterns where others lose it. The carapace is the top part of the shell here. This guy wants to move. If I set him down, we can watch him take off a little. And look at the size of the back feet. Those huge back feet for swimming.
These turtles were severely depleted in the 1920s when it became a popular food source for human beings. And it took nearly 40 years for them to reappear in Long Island Sound again. I was raised here in southern Connecticut, and I had spent many years fishing, clamming, boating, swimming, water skiing throughout Long Island Sound. But I never once saw or heard of the diamondback terrapin. This is a protected marsh estuary that borders Long Island Sound in Madison, Connecticut. As you can see, there's no development in this area. It's a completely protected location. This is what our wildlife needs to survive. We've got to give them big buffers. So the question is, if it took a guy like me 38 years to discover the fabulous creatures like diamondback terrapins living here in Long Island Sound, how many other animals are waiting to be discovered in our waters? The future of the Sound is in our hands. It's up to us to protect it.
These are test holes from diamondback terrapins.
Like the diamondback terrapin, even animals like the osprey, the most incredible raptor, were almost wiped out by human ignorance. But we changed our ways with just enough time, so only now we're starting to see their numbers increase. Folks, usually someday you will be married. Some of you may not, whatever, but you're supposed to apologize to your spouse after you've had a little altercation. We're out filming on the set of Expedition New England, and people are talking about naps for the baby. I can't have that kind of thing on the show.
Before we lead you on the spectacular underwater expedition of Long Island Sound in Stonington, Connecticut, we've got to skip ahead to June to the Connecticut Audubon Coastal Center in Milford, where Scott joins Dr. Jennifer Mattei and her team of research biologists from Sacred Heart University as they study a bizarre arthropod living in Long Island Sound.
Actually, they've been around since the Ordovician, which is about 425 million years ago. The early ancestors of horseshoe crabs look very similar to what they look like today. They're amazing creatures in that they've survived 5 major extinction events, including the one that killed off the dinosaurs. So they're a very tough animal, and we just want to make sure they stick around for a long time. 19015.
This is on the outer side of this shell. There's no actual meat here.
It's like getting a toenail cut.
Yeah, basically that's a good analogy. And then I make it just long enough so that the yellow part here
Male, 19 and a half.
is visible to someone who is just walking by the beach. And you put it through the hole and cinch it through here. It has the same kind of mechanism as a garbage
Getting
can
wet.
or a garbage bag closure. That's what we call it, a cinch tag. And then you can clearly see both the number there. That's his unique number, and the phone number there. And on the other side is Dr. Matei's information, Sacred Heart Universe.
For many, many years, these creatures were used as bait. As a matter of fact, as early as a couple of years ago, many people were just corralling them up during this breeding migration in June and using them as bait. And what we're finding out is this particular animal, even its eggs, are a critical part of the ecosystem. There are many different species of birds that rely on the eggs of the horseshoe crab to survive. So we've got to protect them and we've got to preserve them. That's why we're here, trying to study them.
My name is Larissa Matei. I'm Dr. Matei's daughter. I'm 18 years old. I'm a freshman at Barnard College, and I've been doing this, I guess, probably since I was in 6th grade. I've been helping her out when she first started. This is a female. You can tell because right here, these front 2 little pincers, they're not actually sharp, so they won't really hurt you. You can just like put your finger in there and nothing will happen. They're just flat like this, whereas, let's see, this guy here by comparison, if you look at the front 2, this one right here is like a boxing glove. And so males also generally are smaller than the females. And so the 2 little boxing gloves here, he'll come and clasp on around here in this back part. And that's how he kind of hooks himself on while she's laying her eggs.
Right now.
So and then this part here is the telson. It doesn't really stab you or anything. They use it because if I leave her like this and she's on her back, they're on the beach and they can't go anywhere and they can't flip around. So she might, this one here, but they'll put their telson down like that. This one here, right here, and they'll push it into the sand, and then that's how they right themselves. So then he'll kind of flip over, obviously without my help, and then they can keep going back the way they came. So.
It's critical that anyone that finds a horseshoe crab with a tag on it immediately makes a note of the ID number on the tag and contacts Dr. Matei with the exact location of the animal.
Okay, the size of this female is 26.5. And her mate is 24.5.
As we prepare to descend to the sea floor, I'm amazed at the clarity of this water. It's absolutely fabulous. This underwater habitat is thriving with Irish moss, eelgrass, and sea lettuce, the basic plant matter so critical to keeping Long Island Sound in balance. And when we look at the sound, you've got to think in terms of it as being a gigantic ecosystem, formed by the interaction of a community of organisms living within a physical environment. And in case you haven't heard, human beings are organisms too, and we seem to be causing a bunch of issues here. We've changed the physical environment so fast and added so many of ourselves into the system Long Island Sound is coming under great pressure from our actions. Wait a minute. Chris Pimley has discovered something and alerts me to investigate. I couldn't believe my eyes. Frilled anemones in Long Island Sound. This is a spectacular sight. Up until now, I'd only seen these bizarre animals in deeper waters off of Rhode Island. This animal belongs to the phylum Cnidaria, which includes jellies and corals. Scientists have determined that this creature has reached the tissue stage of cellular development, where nerve cells are linked together for a more effective communication. It's like an aquarium down here. I still can't believe I'm in Long Island Sound, but I am. Take a look at this spider crab, constantly feeding on the garden of plant matter, covering the rocky substrate, recycling the energy, and cleaning house in Long Island Sound. But just because the water looks clear and clean doesn't necessarily mean it's true. We've come a long way at stopping primary point source pollution, like factories pumping pipes of poisonous chemicals directly into Long Island Sound. We don't do that anymore. But it's the non-point source pollution issues that we're still struggling with. Things like excessive lawn fertilizers, animal waste, and overflows from failed septic systems. Each of these end up mixing with rainwater that is not absorbed into the soil and instead flows into storm drains, rivers, and streams that all lead into Long Island Sound. Abandoned lobster traps scattered around the Sound. They turn out to be death traps for anything caught inside. This is Long Island Sound. We're here at the Milford Audubon, out on the coastal area. It's about 1 a.m. There are horseshoe crabs breeding by the hundreds right here on this beach. Dr. Jennifer Mattei is here doing research with her students, trying to tag as many of these creatures to find out where do they go and what kind of behavior they actually sustain. And if that's not enough, the horseshoe crab turns out to have bizarre blue blood. And in it, the powerful blood-clotting agent called LAL, essential for the lives of millions of human beings across the globe.
I'm recording their tag numbers, their sex, the width of their shell in centimeters, and whether or not they have a mate, and then today's date, the location, and any notes about damage on their shells.
So this is the prosoma right here, and we're recording also, besides tagging them, any damage that they have. So you can see he's got a little bit of damage right here that's getting added into the data sheets.
We got more coming in. Yeah, there are 10 eyes. I think there's a bunch in the front here. There's 2 up here, and there are 2 right there. They're 2 tiny holes. I don't know if you can even see them. Right on either side of this little brown bit there. There's one. Because they're actually not crabs. They're related to spiders. So that's why if you look, they have 10 appendages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 10 total. So They are related to spiders, oddly enough. And then carry them. And they tend to be kind of squirmy because they obviously don't like being picked up and carried around. But these two are kind of mating. You can actually see, oh, don't come apart. Right there is the little boxing glove, and that's where he grabs onto the female. So they were in the process of mating before I so rudely interrupted.
You don't actually see the eggs being laid because the process takes place underground. Like the female will burrow into the sand and she'll lay her eggs there, and then she'll walk over them and the male will fertilize them also there.
They're fertilized externally, so that means that the female lays the eggs, they're outside of her body, and then the male will come and sort of spread the sperm all over them and just release it into the water. And so that's why a lot of times, especially at night, we've been finding, you'll get two that are hooked together and then there's a bunch of males kind of swimming around, and because it's externally fertilized, it's kind of like a big free-for-all eventually.
So they can
so they all want to contribute to the gene pool, which is kind of the name of the game.
As Scott's dive team nears the end of the dive, Chris Pimley makes another remarkable discovery. A gigantic worm. They've never seen anything like this in New England. It resembles a large sandworm, but if you look closely, each foot is in the shape of a paddle. And looking closer, it uses a sheath of mucus to slide through the silty bottom. Just a few yards away is a single piece of southern kelp anchored to the rocky substrate. This algae has the ability to grow to lengths of 30 feet and as fast as 1.5 inches per day. Okay, at this point, Scott and his team are overdue at the rendezvous point, but with each turn a new creature presents itself. It feels like we left Earth and traveled to another galaxy. I never dreamt that Long Island Sound was teeming with so much life. Like this solitary Forbes' sea star who looks a little too well fed. Well, folks, this is just a glimpse of Long Island Sound, your own backyard in southern Connecticut. I can only hope you'll join us to protect it.
To get a real understanding of the delicate balance needed to protect Long Island Sound, we took a trip aboard Project Oceanology's research vessel, Envirolab 2. The experience blew my mind.
All flatfish, when they start off their life, look like a normal fish with one eye on each side of their head. When they are about 3 weeks old, they go through a really, really bad week. They go through puberty in a week. And their skull rotates on them. Their skull turns like this, and one eye migrates across the top of its head to the other side of its body. Right? Now, depending upon the kind of flatfish it is, they either end up with their eyes on the right side of their body, like this. His head is pointing away from you. What side are his eyes on? Right. They're on his right, correct? Yes. All right. Or this guy, what side are his eyes on? On his left. All right-eyed flatfish are in the flounder family. All left-eyed flatfish are in the fluke family. So if you've heard the terms fluke and flounder, that's where it's coming from. They're okay.
They say the details are in the dirt. Well, we put that old adage to the test and got our own hands dirty this time. By using a device called the Peterson grab, Lauren and Thaxter helped us scoop up a sample of Long Island Sound's silty sea floor so we can take a closer look at the creatures at the bottom of the food web.
The thing about skates is their eyes are up here, right? These two little openings behind the eyes are called the sphericals. That's how they pump water down over their gills so they can breathe. All right. Their mouth, however, is underneath. All right. Well, they'll grab on. Yep.
Expedition New England, Rocky Neck State Park. Check this out. The water column is loaded with fish, like these cunner. And again, I'm shocked by this awesome visibility. Take a look, a summer flounder shoots from underneath me. Each day, millions of tons of silt and sand are washed into the Sound from major watersheds like the Connecticut, the Thames, and the Housatonic rivers. And even waters from as far north as Canada work their way into Long Island Sound. Every single time we fertilize our lawns, wash our cars, and even flush the toilets in Connecticut, it has an impact on Long Island Sound. The future of these creatures depends on people like you and I to make significant changes in our lives. We're talking about simple things like proper disposal of our pets' waste to prevent it from washing into storm sewers, keeping our cars free of oil and gas leaks, and the elimination of harmful lawn fertilizers that make crops grow bigger and stronger and grass grow greener and thicker, but kill everything else in between. We gotta get smarter. We gotta read labels, call the manufacturers, demand environmentally safe products. It's up to us. The future of Long Island Sound is in our hands,